The morning sunlight filtered through the high windows of the great library's astronomical wing, catching dust motes dancing above scroll-laden tables. Ammon hunched over calculations, his quick stylus making soft scratching sounds against papyrus. Around him, the library hummed with scholarly activity, soft discussions, shuffling feet, the occasional exclamation of discovery. He absently reached for his cup of watered wine, knocking it over instead. As the liquid spread toward his calculations, a quick hand intervened with a cloth. "Still dwelling among the stars while your body remains earthbound, I see," said Thea, saving his work with experienced efficiency. Ammon looked up, momentarily startled. Thea of Athens stood before him, her striking amber eyes bright with amusement. Unlike the other physicians who draped themselves in formal white, she wore practical blue-dyed robes, her dark curls hastily pinned up as always. Ink stained her fingers much like his own, evidence of her morning's work. "The heavens don't arrange themselves, Thea," he replied, a smile softening his normally serious features. "These calculations for the lunar eclipse next month must be precise. While you predict celestial movements, my patients move quite unpredictably toward death or recovery," she countered, settling uninvited across from him. "I've been testing that circulation theory again." Ammon's interest sharpened. "The one about blood moving in a continuous circuit? What have you found?" Evidence that would revolutionize treatment if the senior physicians weren't so devoted to tradition. She glanced around before unrolling a small papyrus, showing detailed anatomical drawings. "Look at these vessel structures. They form complete pathways, not endpoints, as Galen claimed. Your ideas would transform medicine if proven," Ammon said, genuinely impressed. "If allowed to be proven," Thea corrected. "The senior physicians call it sacrilege to question Galen's humors. Meanwhile, patients die. Knowledge must be verified before what? Before it's useful?" Her voice remained low, but intensified. "People are suffering now, Ammon. I question whether the journey to knowledge captivates you scholars more than the destination itself." Their debate was interrupted by a thin shadow falling across the table. They looked up to find Archimedes, Ammon's mentor and the keeper of the library's most restricted knowledge. Despite his 74 years, the old man's eyes remained bright in his weathered face. "When young minds clash, new light emerges," Archimedes said, his voice carrying the slight rasp of age. "Perhaps you too could direct that energy toward cataloging our newly acquired Babylonian astronomical texts." Thea raised an eyebrow. "I'm hardly qualified for astronomical cataloging." "Which is precisely why Ammon needs your perspective," Archimedes countered. "Their medical applications are somewhat unusual." Something in the old man's tone suggested deeper meaning, but before either could question him, Archimedes continued, "The times grow uncertain. Knowledge diversified is knowledge preserved." He placed a gnarled hand briefly on Ammon's shoulder before departing, moving with the quiet dignity that had always characterized him. That evening, Ammon stood with Thea among a crowd at Alexandria's harbor viewpoint. The famous lighthouse cast its steady beam across darkening waters as Roman ships entered the harbor. More than usual, their movements displaying military precision rather than mercantile casualness. 3 warships among the merchant vessels, Ammon noted quietly. Rome grows more interested in Alexandria's governance. Thea's expression tightened. "And its knowledge. I heard Magistrate Claudius discussing certain dangerous texts that promote unnatural thinking at yesterday's public forum." Around them, the marketplace buzzed with similar observations. A spice merchant loudly proclaimed that Romans were compiling lists of radical thinkers. A weaver whispered about scrolls being confiscated from private collections. "They fear what they don't understand," Ammon said as they walked back toward the library complex. "Or covet what they cannot create," Thea replied. "Rome builds roads, while Alexandria builds understanding. Some find that threatening." Later, on the library's roof observation platform, Ammon adjusted a bronze astrolabe while Thea prepared to record measurements of a celestial event. The small space forced them to work in close proximity, their shoulders occasionally brushing as they arranged instruments. The constellations emerged from the darkening sky, like old friends revealing themselves one by one. Ammon felt the familiar thrill of cosmic connection, made sharper somehow by Thea's presence beside him. Their hands brushed as they both reached for the recording tablet, and he felt an unexpected jolt that had nothing to do with astronomy. "There," he said, voice slightly unsteady as he pointed upward. "Arcturus rises exactly where my calculations predicted." Thea looked up, her profile limned in starlight, and something shifted in Ammon's perception, as if the woman before him was suddenly aligned with the celestial order he so devotedly studied. "The Roman official Claudius has offered for my hand," Thea said suddenly, eyes still on the stars. Ammon's hand slipped on the astrolabe. That's advantageous. His protection would be valuable in uncertain times." I refused him. "Why?" The question escaped before he could consider it. "Because Alexandria is where the future of knowledge lives," she said, finally meeting his eyes. "I won't trade that for security and ignorance." Their moment was interrupted by shouts from the street below. From their vantage point, they saw the first small fire. Scrolls burning in a public square as Romans oversaw the destruction and made proclamations about seditious texts. "It begins," Ammon whispered, a chill running through him despite the warm night. The following day brought chaos to the great library. Scholars frantically organized the evacuation of key texts as word spread of Roman censorship expanding beyond seditious works to include speculative sciences and non-Roman philosophies. In the main hall, Ammon coordinated with scribes, copying essential astronomical calculations. "Focus on Aristarchus's heliocentric model and Hipparchus's star catalogue," he instructed, the urgency in his voice matching the tension throughout the vast chamber. "If we lose the original observations, future generations will have to rediscover everything." A young messenger appeared at his elbow, breathless. "Master Ammon, Archimedes has collapsed. He asks for you urgently and said only you must come." Ammon's heart constricted. He passed his coordinate scrolls to a colleague and followed the boy through corridors, increasingly filled with scholars rushing in all directions, their arms laden with texts. Archimedes' quarters were austere, yet cluttered. A space that reflected its occupant's focused mind. The old man lay on a simple cot, his breathing labored, the smell of medicine mixed with ink and papyrus. Outside, distant shouts could be heard as the situation in the city deteriorated. "Master," Ammon said softly, kneeling beside the bed. Archimedes' fingers were cold as they gripped Ammon's wrist with surprising strength. The old man's eyes, usually sharp with intellect, now burned with urgent fever. "They are not just destroying knowledge," he whispered, each word clearly costing effort. "They are destroying evidence." "Evidence of what, master?" Ammon moved closer, fighting his rising panic. "Of what came before, of what we truly are." A racking cough interrupted him. When he continued, his voice was fainter. "Beneath the 7th marking stone in the Hall of Ptolemy, a panel. The key." From beneath his pillow, Archimedes withdrew an object wrapped in silk. As it touched Ammon's palm, it seemed to shift slightly, as though alive. "Not all is as we've been taught, my son," Archimedes whispered. "The cycle turns again. Alexandria burns, as others burned before it." "I don't understand," Ammon said, clutching the silk-wrapped object. "The chamber holds knowledge not from this age of man," Archimedes continued, his voice fading. "Promise me you'll ensure it survives." "I promise," Ammon said, though confusion clouded his understanding. "Find the chamber. The knowledge will know its vessel." The old man's eyes closed. His breathing grew more labored, and then, with terrible finality, stopped altogether. Ammon sat in stunned silence, tears tracking unnoticed down his face. Finally, he unwrapped the silk object, a metallic disc unlike any material he recognized, inscribed with symbols that seemed to rearrange themselves when not directly observed. He slipped it inside his robe and rose to arrange his mentor's body with reverence. That night, in his quarters, Ammon examined the strange key desk under lamplight. Its surface rippled faintly like water when touched, the symbols shifting into new configurations that somehow remained familiar, despite following no language pattern he recognized. His contemplation was interrupted by pounding at his door. He quickly concealed the disc before opening it. Thea stumbled in, a gash on her arm, her clothing smoke-stained. "They've gone mad," she gasped. "The Romans are burning entire sections now." Ammon guided her to a chair, pouring water from his pitcher. "You're injured?" He gathered clean cloths and his small medical kit, a scholar's basic supplies. I was helping evacuate the medical texts, she explained as he cleaned her wound. Roman soldiers came through with torches, no longer separating approved texts from forbidden ones. They're burning everything. Ammon's hands trembled slightly as he applied medicine to her cut. He was acutely aware of her breathing, the warmth of her skin against his fingers, the unusual intimacy of the moment for two people accustomed to intellectual rather than physical connection. The Romans aren't just censoring texts anymore, Theo continued, wincing as he applied medicine. They're ordering complete destruction. Claudius told me they have permission to cleanse the entire library if necessary. Why would he tell you that? His final attempt to persuade me. Safety in exchange for... She didn't finish. For becoming his possession, Ammon completed, surprising himself with the bitterness in his voice. Their eyes met. In the lamplight, something unspoken passed between them. Ammon made a decision then. Archimedes died today, he said quietly. Thea's expression softened with genuine sorrow. I'm so sorry, Ammon. I know what he meant to you. Before he died, he gave me this. Ammon withdrew the disc, and spoke of a hidden chamber beneath the library, containing knowledge not from this age of man. Thea leaned forward, examining the strange object without touching it. These symbols. They're shifting as we watch. Her scientific mind engaged, despite their dire circumstances. What metal behaves this way? None that I know of, Ammon admitted. He said it was a key to a chamber beneath the 7th marking stone in the Hall of Ptolemy. We need to find it before the Romans destroy everything, Theo said decisively. It could be dangerous. Archimedes seemed afraid of what's hidden there. We may not survive this night, Thea said softly, her expression grave. There are things I would regret leaving unsaid. Before she could continue, sounds of destruction grew closer, shouting, the crash of falling shelves, the distinct crackling of spreading fire. In the sudden fear of the moment, they reached for each other. Their first kiss was brief, urgent, flavored with smoke and uncertainty. Whatever happens, Ammon said, drawing back slightly, I'm glad it's you here with me. She nodded, her practical nature reasserting itself. Then let's ensure something survives this madness. The library corridors had transformed into a hellscape. Heat distorted the air, thick smoke reduced visibility to arm's length, and the constant crash of falling debris created an apocalyptic symphony. Ammon and Thea navigated by memory more than sight, stuffing valuable scrolls into satchels as they encountered them. This way! Ammon called over the roar of flames, guiding Thea toward the Hall of Ptolemy. They passed scenes of destruction that tore at their scholarly hearts. Mosaics shattered under soldiers' boots, statues toppled, colleagues being dragged away in chains. Twice they were forced to hide from Roman patrols. Once, in a storage alcove barely large enough for one person, they pressed together in darkness, hearts beating in terrified synchrony. Ammon felt Thea's breath against his neck, her body aligned with his, and despite their peril, something stirred in him beyond fear, a recognition of how perfectly they fit together, like celestial bodies finding their natural orbit. When they reached the Hall of Ptolemy, they found it partially collapsed. Fighting through debris, they located the 7th marking stone, a floor tile inscribed with Ptolemy's cartouche. Help me move it, Ammon urged, his fingers finding the edges of the heavy stone. As they struggled to shift it, a tremendous crash shook the building. A supporting column gave way, bringing down a section of ceiling between them. Suddenly, Ammon found himself cut off from Thea, able to see her through a narrow gap in the fallen stones, but unable to reach her. Thea, he called, coughing constantly. I'm all right, she answered, though blood trickled from a cut on her forehead. But I can't get through. Behind her, approaching torchlight indicated Romans entering the hall from the far side. Fear clutched Ammon's heart as he saw the silhouettes of soldiers. Go, Thea coughed. Find the chamber. I'll try another way around. Thea, I can't leave you. You must. For all we've lost tonight, something must survive. Go. With Roman voices drawing closer to Thea's position, Ammon made the agonizing choice to continue alone, praying to gods he'd never been certain of, that she could escape. His shaking hands finally shifted the marking stone, revealing a small depression beneath. The disc key seemed to warm in his palm as he placed it into the cavity. It flowed like liquid metal, reshaping itself to fit perfectly. The stone floor around the marking tile silently reconfigured, sections sliding away to reveal a narrow staircase descending into unexpected coolness below. Ammon hesitated only briefly before taking his lamp and beginning the descent, the sounds of destruction above fading with each step. The chamber opened before him like a revelation, stealing his breath more efficiently than the smoke above. His lamp seemed unnecessary. The room itself provided a soft, sourceless illumination that shifted subtly through colors he struggled to name. The walls were lined with shelves of some alabaster-like material, their contents unlike any scrolls he had ever seen. Instead of papyrus or vellum, these were crafted from a substance that seemed to catch light like fish scales, their surface rippling faintly as though breathing. At the chamber's center stood a table of polished obsidian, its surface etched with celestial patterns. But not the stars, as Ammon knew them. These showed configurations impossible in the current sky, as though mapping heavens thousands of years past, or yet to come. Ammon moved through the chamber with reverent steps, his scholar's mind simultaneously overwhelmed and ravenous for understanding. Ancient instruments combined astronomy with sciences he couldn't identify. Personal items from different historical periods, a Sumerian clay tablet, an Etruscan amulet, a piece of carved ivory unlike any known civilization's art, suggested previous guardians had occupied this space. A detailed model of the solar system showed not 5 planets, but 9, with other bodies circling beyond even these. A wall of symbols chronicled what appeared to be repeated rises and falls of civilization across millennia. Hidden among artifacts, Ammon discovered Archimedes' personal journal. Learning his mentor was part of an ancient lineage of guardians, tracing back to a civilization predating Egypt's earliest dynasties. The journal referenced knowledge saved from the deluge and star wisdom from those who came from above. As Ammon absorbed these impossibilities, he felt drawn to a central pedestal holding a larger scroll. Unlike the others, this one seemed to pulse with inner light. When he approached, the shifting symbols on its surface suddenly resolved into clarity. Though they matched no known language, he could somehow read them. Without conscious decision, he reached out. The moment his fingers touched the scroll, it reacted, unfurling itself, the symbols lifting from the surface like living things. They danced in the air before him for one breathtaking moment, then flowed toward him like water finding its level. Ammon gasped as the first symbols touched his skin, sinking beneath the surface. There was no pain, only a rush of understanding so vast his mind struggled to contain it. Visions flooded his consciousness. Advanced civilizations rising and falling in cycles across hundreds of thousands of years. The true age of humanity, millions rather than thousands of years. Technologies lost and rediscovered repeatedly. The real purpose of monuments worldwide is knowledge repositories. The stars, as viewed from positions other than Earth. What's happening to me? These cannot possibly be memories. These events spanned thousands, no millions of years. Yet I see them with the clarity of personal recollection. Atlantis was real, and before it others. The stars themselves have changed position in these memories. How long has this cycle repeated? The knowledge restructured his understanding violently but with purpose. He experienced the memories of previous vessels throughout history, their discoveries, their sacrifices, their solitude, their burden. He saw the pattern beneath history, civilizations reaching certain technological thresholds before collapsing, with only fragments of their knowledge preserved by the guardians. He understood why Archimedes had kept this chamber secret, not to hide knowledge from destruction, but to protect humanity from knowledge it wasn't ready to bear. As the transformation neared completion, Ammon realized he was becoming something more than human, a living repository of forbidden knowledge, his very cells inscribed with wisdom from beyond human origins. The symbols had vanished from the scroll, now flowing beneath his skin like luminous rivers when he moved. A sound at the entrance pulled him from his altered state. Footsteps on the stairs announced someone's arrival. Ammon turned, hoping desperately it was Thea. She appeared at the chamber's entrance, soot-streaked and bloodied but alive. Her expression transformed from relief to shock as she beheld him. Ammon knew what she must be seeing. His skin now subtly illuminated from within, his eyes reflecting light differently, symbols occasionally visible beneath his skin when he moved. "Ammon?" Her voice wavered as she kept distance between them. "What's happened to you?" He struggled to explain, with a mind now operating differently, his thoughts connecting across vast patterns. His speech patterns had altered slightly, incorporating archaic terms and unusual sentence structures. "I've seen everything, Thea. The rise and fall of 1,000 civilizations. Knowledge cycles through periods of flourishing and collapse. We're merely the latest iteration. You're not making sense. Your eyes, they're changing color as you speak." The knowledge needed a vessel to survive Alexandria's burning, as it has needed vessels before, when Babylon fell, when Atlantis sank beneath the waves, when... "Stop!" Thea raised her hands, distress clear in her expression. "This isn't you speaking. Whatever's in this place has possessed you." He reached for her. She flinched back. "The patterns, Thea," he said more gently, trying to organize his thoughts into words she could understand. "I can see them now. You've been with me before, across multiple cycles. Different bodies, same essence. Our paths have crossed in every age." Her scientific mind struggled with this impossibility, even as something deeper in her responded. The moment was interrupted by the sound of soldiers above, the heavy tread of Roman boots discovering the hidden entrance. "I don't understand what's happening," Thea said, tears in her eyes. "But I know you, Ammon of Alexandria, vessel or scholar or something in between. I know your heart." She extended her hand to him, a gesture of trust amidst incomprehension. "If Alexandria must burn, then let us carry its light forward." Before Ammon could respond, a commanding voice echoed down the stairway. "Secure that chamber immediately!" Magistrate Claudius himself appeared in the entrance, his military bearing incongruous against the chamber's ancient mystery. His cold eyes widened momentarily at the unexpected wonder before him, then narrowed with calculating avarice. "What treasure have we here?" he said, gesturing his soldiers forward. "Gather everything. The emperor will be most pleased." Ammon, his transformation complete, now instinctively understood the chamber's defenses. He guided Thea to place her hands on specific symbols on the obsidian table. "Trust me," he whispered, and she did, pressing her palms against the ancient stone without hesitation. Light patterns spread across the floor, in geometric precision, branching and connecting until they reached the entrance. The stairway began to reconfigure itself, stones sliding into new positions, cutting off the Romans' advance. Shouts of alarm echoed as soldiers scrambled to avoid being crushed. Claudius, desperate, lunged for Ammon and the scroll he still held. "This knowledge belongs to Rome now," he snarled. "Give me the scroll, and perhaps I'll still accept your woman into my household." Thea's response was immediate and fierce. "I belong to no one but myself." Ammon, with newfound abilities, merely looked at Claudius. The symbols beneath his skin flared briefly, and the Roman staggered back as if struck by an invisible force. "This knowledge belongs to humanity's future," Ammon said calmly. "You are not its intended recipient." As more of the chamber began to reconfigure itself, shelves sinking into walls, artifacts disappearing into hidden recesses, Ammon led Thea to a wall that appeared solid but responded to his touch, revealing a hidden passage. Before entering, they shared a passionate embrace, acknowledging all that had changed and all that remained true between them. "I don't fully understand what you've become," she whispered against his lips, "but I know who you are." "And I have always known you," he responded, "across 1,000 lifetimes." The hidden passage led them through an ancient tunnel system beneath Alexandria, revealing evidence this network predated the city itself. As they navigated by the light emanating from Ammon's transformed skin, he explained what he now understood. "The library was built where it stands because of what lay beneath it," Ammon explained, his voice carrying new resonance. "The knowledge in those scrolls contains technological understanding that humanity has repeatedly discovered and lost." "Why hide it? Why not use it to prevent suffering?" Thea asked, her practical healer's mind seeking application. "Because each time this knowledge has been released too quickly, it led to destruction. The cycles show the pattern. Cosmic understanding without spiritual wisdom creates civilizations that destroy themselves." He paused, helping her over a difficult section of tunnel. "Think of a child given fire before understanding its dangers." As they talked, they gathered the most crucial scrolls from their satchels, ensuring the fundamental knowledge survived. "What happens now?" Thea asked, as they approached what appeared to be an exit to the harbor. Ammon offered her a scroll, smaller than the one that transformed him, but clearly of the same origin. I offer you choice, not obligation. This knowledge needs more than one guardian. It seeks balance. My understanding of the cosmos, your knowledge of humanity and healing. Together, we could preserve what's being lost until the world is ready for it again. Thea studied the scroll, her scientific mind grappling with metaphysical reality, her heart recognizing truth beyond current understanding. Will it change me as it changed you? Yes, but in ways aligned with your nature. The knowledge adapts to its vessel. With determined grace, she accepted the scroll. Her transformation differed from Ammon's, gentler, aligned with her healing nature. The symbols that appeared beneath her skin followed the patterns of human anatomy, the mysteries of life, rather than cosmic order. I feel everything, she gasped. Every nerve, every vessel, the very pattern of life itself. Their hands met, their new natures resonating together. Cosmic order and living matter in harmony. The Romans believe they're destroying knowledge, Ammon said as they emerged from the tunnel onto a secluded shore where a small boat awaited. Instead, they've merely changed its form. 5 years later, a remote cliff dwelling overlooked the Mediterranean, the distant lights of Alexandria occasionally visible on clear nights. Inside, a chamber similar to Alexandria's hidden repository but smaller, newer, had been established. Ammon and Thea, both subtly changed by years carrying ancient knowledge, worked with a small group of carefully selected disciples. Thea guided a young woman through healing techniques centuries ahead of their time, her hands occasionally glowing subtly as she demonstrated proper energy pathways. The body knows how to heal itself, she explained. We merely remind it of its own wisdom. Nearby, Ammon helped a bright-eyed boy calculate the positions of planets not yet discovered by conventional astronomy. The universe operates on patterns, he said, his stylus marking positions on a star chart. What seems random simply follows cycles too vast for ordinary perception. At night, when their students slept, Ammon and Thea stood on the cliff edge, looking toward distant Alexandria. Their hands entwined, the symbols beneath their skin occasionally pulsed in unison, cosmic and biological patterns synchronized. A comet appeared in the sky, one they both knew was coming before any other astronomers detected it. The cycle turns, Ammon murmured. This age ends, another begins. Yet some things remain constant, Thea replied, her head resting against his shoulder. Their kiss held the wisdom of 1,000 lifetimes. Passion tempered by perspective, desire enriched by devotion. Beneath their robes, the ancient knowledge pulsed like a shared heartbeat, waiting for the day humanity would be ready to receive it once more. And in the darkness above, the stars wheeled in their ancient patterns, witnessing yet another turn in humanity's long journey toward understanding and beyond.